First of all, thank you for attention on this meetup, on my presentation. So, very short introduction. My name is Péter Nagy. I am working as a senior Android developer at SAP. And I would like to talk about kotlinx serialization library. 2 weeks ago, I have rewatched the movie Ratatouille. Maybe if you have seen, no? Someone didn't see it, okay, no problem. It is a film, a cartoon about a little chef. Especially it is a rat, but it is a little chef who is cooking in a restaurant. And I got an idea about the film because the key moment was in the film that this little chef was just preparing ratatouille for a very special guest. And the question was that, is it possible to cook ratatouille in a Michelin star restaurant? And of course, yes. And yes, this is similar at the case of the serialization. Everybody knows what is serialization. Everybody is doing serialization. Everybody has own recipe about the serialization, but there are some really important things. Yeah, and sorry, just a disclosure. I have a very special sense of humor, so let's see about the daily menu. I would like to talk about a common bug with the other serialization libraries. I would like to introduce the kotlinx libraries. I would like to show you some tricks, and there will be a one more thing moment. So what about the serials with the Gson, of course? Yeah, in the Android you can use a JSON object, but who wants to use it? Nobody, I think. First of all, we want to use a framework, and what we are expecting about any framework, it will do the serialization. There is a JSON, it is a string, and there will be an object. Cool. We have a lot of options, JSON, Gson, or Moshi. Especially, I will not talk about Moshi, but the first two candidates, yes. So, yeah, there is a problem with them. It was happened 4 years ago. Now, in my former company, we were developing an application, and with any of the test users, we have gotten null pointer exception. We have used Kotlin, of course, and the null pointer exception came from an object which doesn't have any optional values, optional properties. How it is possible? That was the serialization library, of course, and let me show you what happened. So I hope you can see it. Yeah, I am using Gson. It is very cool, it is working. I hope, yes, it is running. The test is running, and okay. If I can find, yeah. There is a JSON object. It is no problem. But what will happen if we try to deserialize any object which there is a null value, explicit null value? Nothing happened. The test was green, and it was able to serialize it, and there is a null value in a non-nullable property. It is a little bit tricky because with the JSON you will have two kinds of null. One of them if you explicit use null value, or if the property is missing from the JSON. If I run it, it is green, no any exception, and of course it is null. How it is possible? It is possible because JSON library is using reflection. What does it mean? Reflection will instantiate the object And if something is missing or it is a null value, then the property will be null. Yeah, that's a very big problem. So I was just looking for any solution, and I find the kotlinx library. The good thing, it is a Kotlin-based library. It means that we can use the Kotlin features, and it is using code generation instead of reflection. Quite easy to use. It is supporting JSON, protobuffer, CBOR, and so on and so on. And what is more important, it is supporting the Kotlin multi-platform. And let's see what happens if we try to do the same things with that library. Yeah, I would like to find a test. Okay, there is a null, and of course it will be not able to serialize the null, because when the library wants to instantiate an object with a non-null property and we want to use a null, then there will be an exception, a serialization exception. That's good. It is the same at the case of the missing of property. We can see there is a, okay, here is the exception. That's cool. Yeah, how can we set up it? We need a plugin, we need a dependency, and there is a one minimum thing. We should use Kotlin 2.0. So that's the minimum Kotlin version what we should use. Let's set up any class. It is very easy. We should just add a serializable annotation. There are some other options. For example, we can use some custom serializer at the case of any properties. Or if we want to change the name, then we can use the serial name annotation. That's cool. We need a JSON object. It is the object which will do the serialization. We can configure it. I will talk about later. And after that, we can call the encode to string or decode from string. That's it. Okay, let's do other things. Just we want to serialize an object which has default values. What will happen? Surprise, surprise, we will get a null or an empty JSON object. And the reason of it, the library, without any configuration, don't want to serialize any default values. It is not good, because we should think about if we have a server and on the server has a different library, then it could be a problem, because we will not send any value. So it is not a problem. There is an encode default config flag, and if we just set it up or turn it on, then everything will be good. Yeah, I have told that we should just use the serializable annotation. What can we do if we are using any third-party data class or any data? For example, date, big decimal, or something else. We are not able to annotate it. There is no problem. We can use the custom serializer, and we should just write it. It is quite simple, because we should just write how the library should serialize any object. So maybe we want to create a string, or we want to just instantiate an object from string. That's quite easy. So if I going back to my test, okay. Yeah, there is, I have a custom class. If we can see, there is, it is annotated with serializable, but it is using date class. And because of that, I should just describe this property will be serialized with this data as long serializer. Oops. If I just run it, then yeah, there is. Okay. I have told there are some built-in class which is supporting the serialization by default. It is the primitives and the enums. And be careful if you are using in a Kotlin multi-platform project. There is a little things about the long values. Unfortunately, the Kotlin long version and JavaScript long version is the range is not the same. So in that case, there is a recommendation. Please use long string serializer at the case of the long values. Yeah, and this is important if you have a, for example, Node.js backend. It is supporting pair, triple, and collections. And here, be careful because JSON supporting JSON primitives, JSON object, and JSON arrays. It means that it is not supporting map or list or set. What does it mean? When the library will just deserialize the JSON array, then it will working by the implementation of the collection. So, for example, if you have a lot of records with the same key and you want to put it in a set and all the way the key is same, then you will get only one record in the set. It is working like with a set implementation, but we should think about based on the performance or kind of these things. Unit, duration, and nothing is able to serialize by default. What about the configuration? I have collected some interesting things, and first of all, there is a is lenient. This is for if you want to use a kind of JSON which is not quoted. So it means that in a JSON, every string value should be quoted, but somehow your backend doesn't support this feature, and without quoted string is arrived, then you can just turn it on, is lenient, and in that case, the library can just support the JSON. Ignore unknown keys. This is important if your, for example, if your server just sending more keys like you want to support on the client side. Encode defaults, I have told that it is important if you have an object which has only default values. Explicit nulls, yeah, we can just control that the null value will be presented in the JSON or not. Coercing input values or coursing input values, this is very interesting thing. If you have an object and this object has a default value, and in the JSON there is an explicit null value, in that case you will get an exception. The reason of it is very simple. The null and the value, what you want to instantiate, it is not the same. And if you want to use the default value instead of the nulls, in that case we should turn it on, this feature, this flag, and after that everything will be working. Library could handle the special floating point values like not a number or infinity. We can just use any different formatting things like if the enum is not with capital letters, or if we want to use a different naming strategy, for example, snake case. It is when you have a word and with the underline is connected. Yeah, and the other thing, it is not a configuration things, but if you use JSON names annotation, in that way you are able to add an alternative name. So it means that, for example, you have an old server, a deprecated server, and a new server. And you want to use the same object on the client side, but for example, in an old server using a different name. In that case, if you just use this JSON names annotation, and you are able to support the both version of the object. If you want to just exclude any properties, you can use the transient annotation. It is very important. You are able to use this annotation only that case if your property has a default value or it's supporting the null value. And of course, if you are using this, then you should, or it is useful to turn it on the ignore unknown keys. And yes, I would like to show you. If I find it. So in here, I have a object. It is a simple text object. That's the name. There is a string, and the number is annotated with transient. And of course, I just added another key or another property in the JSON, and the library was able to just serialize and unserialize it. It is supporting the polymorphism. Why it is important? First of all, if you have an object which is annotated with serializable, the new object which is inherited from the superclass, it will not inherited this option that the child object will be not automatically able to do the serialization, but it is not so hard things because for example, in my case, there is a superclass. It is a base object, and I have an extended class. So if you see, extended class doesn't have any serializable annotation. However, it is using the base object. And if I run the test, there will be no problem, but so I am using here the base object, but I'm using the extended object. And from the extended object, the base object was serialized. So it means that the numbers, which is an extended property, it is not in the serialization, but the text object is there. And it's very important if you are using the extended class, you will be not able to serialize it because the library will just detect it is not annotated. And there is another side effect. If you are using a class and in the extended class you are using a different name, in that case the base object and the extended properties will be serialized. So yeah, sometimes we should just think about, because it could be some interesting things if we are just extended another class, but we are using different property names, then it will be visible in the JSON object. What about the sealed class? It is supporting the sealed class. Of course, we should annotate all of the sealed class with serializable. And here is another interesting thing. If you just serialize any sealed class, and you are using the sealed class, then you will find a type in the JSON string. I hope you can see it. I just wanted to highlight. This is here. It is for the library because this is a sealed class. And when the library wants to just deserialize it, it will be not able to find which kind of sealed class, which is the real sealed class, and the type will just help to the library to detect and deserialize the object. Of course, it is a problem for us because if we are using it in a network communication on the server side, server will not able to handle this information. Anyway, if you are using explicit object, in that way there will be no any kind of type in the JSON. And of course, if you want to avoid this situation, in that case you are able to use any custom serialization. So a custom serializer, you are able to just write the JSON object instead of using by default things. Generic types, it is no problem. So for example, if you have a object, I am use this box, it is serializable. It is using it is a content, it is a generic type, and I can put there any object which is serializable. So for example, I can put into the content a string, integer, something else, any serializable object, and it will be serialized without any issue. That's good. And what about the object? Object is a singleton object. So in that way, if you want to serialize an object, then don't be surprised, there will be an empty JSON. Empty JSON object, because it is a singleton object, so when deserialization will be happen, then your singleton object will be appearing. If you want to use anonym object, unfortunately it is not possible because the annotation will be missing. And there is another tricky thing. If you want to use, if you want to use interface, in that case, you must do some other tricks because we are not able to annotate any interface. So annotation is not working at the case of the interface. In that way, we should just create a serializer module, and it should used by the JSON. If I find it, yeah, here is it. I create a module, and in the module there is a description about this is the interface and this is the child, the class which will be implemented this interface. And based on that, it's well working. Of course, the implementation must have serializable annotation. Yeah, this is the interface and this is the class. And at the end, there will be the everything here. Okay, there is a type, of course, because of the deserialization. So this is about the polymorphism, but there are some other tricks which could be important. So for example, if you have a collection and you want to just describe the type of the serialization for the items, we can just write in the diamond operator without any problem. Yeah, if you don't want to type too much things, then it is possible if you can just add a line at the top of the file, and the library will use this kind of custom serializer everywhere. So that's very easy to do it later. Or I think it is a more smart solution if you are using a type alias. So that's another possibilities. There is another possibilities if you have if you want to use the generic serializer and the custom serializer both time, then there is another annotation what you are able to use. Unfortunately, in that case, you should use the latest Kotlin version. So some configuration is available only at the case of with the latest Kotlin version, and it is experimental feature. There is an option to create a contextual serialization. Sorry. So yeah, and what is there? There is a JSON object builder. It is in the part of the library. So it means that you are able to just create a JSON. It is very useful if you want to write any unit test. In that case, you should not write the JSON in a string format, but you are able to use it. It is a DSL-like format, and you can just build up your JSON, the JSON element, and you are able to test it, it is working or not. We can just use some JSON transformation. It is a very interesting thing. For example, you want to serialize any object, but sometimes it is an object, sometimes it is a list. In that case, you can just write a JSON transformer. It is a custom serializer, and it could just convert that and detect what is happening. So I just want to show you that. If I find it, sorry. Yeah. Here it is. I have a custom serializer which will just detect that the JSON element. In that case, it is not a JSON array. In that case, it will just create a JSON array instead of using the old JSON element. In that way, if I just run the test, we can see it is in a JSON array. So it is a collection and not just a single element. However, in one case I have used an object, one case I have used a list. So it is, I think it is very important, or it could be very important. So what about the takeaway? Use the Kotlin serialization because it is a Kotlin-based library. It supporting the Kotlin features, and it is supporting the multi-platform, and it is supporting different JSON formatting. So I think it is a very good library. You can find the documentation. All of my example is from the documentation, and I think this is one of the best documentation I have ever read. So I can just recommend it. So thank you, JetBrains. And there is one more thing, and I think this is a little bit important. So if you want to use, why we want to use this library? Because there is a Ktor framework. It is a quite good framework. I am using it in my hobby project on the server side, but everybody can use it on the client side without the server. And it is similar like a retrofit. However, it is using Kotlin. It is using coroutines, and it is using this library for the serialization. And in that case, if you have a Ktor server, then you are able to just share between the backend and client side data objects without any problem. So I think if you have any opportunity to use the server side, then you should use it on the client side as well. And of course, Keytor library is supporting the Kotlin multi-platform. I think this is another thing why we should use the Keytor. So thank you very much. So if you have any question,